Hello, my name is Gracie Dishman, and my biography is about Leonardo da Vinci. A little background: Leonardo, if you don't know who he is, Leonardo da Vinci was a painter, architect, inventor, and student of all things scientific. His natural genius crossed so many disciplines that he epitomized the term Renaissance man. Today, he remains best known for his artwork. Move on to the next slide. A little bit of background background information. Leonardo da Vinci was born April 15th, 1452 in Italy. I think it's Ontiano, Tuscany. I don't really know how to say that, which is close to the town of Vinci that provided the surname we associate with him today. So he was actually named after where he was born, which is pretty cool. He was known as Leonardo or as Florentine since he lived near Florence and was famed as an artist, inventor, and thinker. Da Vinci died May 2nd, 1519 at the age of 67. He was buried nearby in the Palace Church of St. Florentine. And I just put a picture on here of his one of his graves, I guess. Not graves, but like a headstone. Next. A little bit more background on his education. Leonardo da Vinci was educated by his father. He received the basic elementary education of reading, writing, and arithmetic. He did attend the University of Florence later on, but in 1467, his father apprenticed him at the age of 15 to learn under the noted sculptor and painter Andrea del Verrocchio. He learned painting, sculpting, and acquiring technical and mechanical skills. For about a decade, Da Vinci refined his painting and sculpting techniques and trained in mechanical arts. Also, at the age of 20, the Painters Guild of Florence offered Da Vinci a membership, but he remained with Verrocchio until he became an independent master in 1478. So Da Vinci's education, there was a lot in his education, but he didn't really have the opportunities that we have now, I guess you could say. Some of his unique contributions. Leonardo da Vinci was an artist and engineer who was best known for his paintings. The historic period that he sculpted and painted in was the Renaissance, Early Renaissance, Italian Renaissance, High Renaissance, and Florentine painting. Stylistic movement, it was, he depicted a linear perspective. I don't really know how to say that word, but naturalism and emotional expressionism. His most masterful techniques were sfumato and chiaroscuro. I don't really know how to say that. But sfumato, which means vanished or evaporated, created imperceptible transitions between light and shades and sometimes between colors. Right, on to the next one. So some of his works some of his most famous works were The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa, and the other one I added was the Madonna of the Rocks. As you can see, they're The Last Supper is very like vibrant in color. The other two are kind of like, I would say, probably not as light, but kind of dull. But anyway, two of the three paintings, the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, are among the world's most famous and admired pieces of art. Even in today's time, you hear a lot about the Mona Lisa. Well, I do. But, yeah. All right, next slide. Some socioeconomic conditions. Leonardo da Vinci influenced artistic trends in his own time and then in the later Renaissance. His interest in science and experiment inspired many humans to study the world and nature, while he was also a great inventor, but his inventions had little impact on his own era. I feel like, his interest in science and experiment led people to like study the nature in the world, and like how art becomes part of that, and how nature and science and experiment is a part of art. So political conditions. Leonardo da Vinci's greatest obstacle that he faced was time. The last few years of Leonardo da Vinci's life, political events caused him to move. The temporary expulsion of the French from Milan caused the 60-year-old to move again. So I'm sure that there was more events that occurred, political events. He was 67 when he died, so I'm sure he experienced more political events, but the ones that I found were later in his life. So, from a religious conditions, Leonardo had solid knowledge of religious symbolism of contemporary Catholic teachings, which had a more humanistic approach to his art subjects. An example of how Leonardo transformed the traditional image of the Last Supper into a more, I would say, religious aspect. Some unique contributions again was the Renaissance. The period, the genre that he was in was Renaissance, High Renaissance, and the Italian Renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci was most famous for his designs, art, cartography, geology, and studies. Leonardo's designs later helped us to invent things like the tank, parachute, helicopter, and many other things. He was also a very talented artist. Most of his pictures and paintings are in art galleries and museums. And obviously, we talked about earlier, his masterful techniques was sfumato, and still don't know how to say that word. And the final judgment that I have, Leonardo da Vinci was a Renaissance painter, sculptor, architect, inventor, military engineer, and draftsman who embodied all of what a Renaissance man should be. He studied the rules of science and nature. He was a gifted man with a curious mind and a smart intellect. And also, just from what I researched on him, Leonardo da Vinci was one of the most influential individuals from the field of arts and architecture. He was a true legend, and his paintings truly display the elements of geniuses in Leonardo. And also, he was undoubtedly one of the most famous personalities in the Italian Renaissance. And that is my presentation. Also, there is a reference page of all 3 references that I used, and I hope you guys enjoyed.